Now then, yeah, wrong. And I'm not calling Retro a wrong, and I'm calling you the wrong. Hopefully, you watched Retro's video from last week. But we thought to give you some insight, we would uh, look at actually what's going on board the MV Dali. Welcome, Retro, on his bikes to the chat.
Hello.
Welcome. And thank you again for your
Hello.
time this week. Retro, can I just ask you, because your background is you're a merchant seaman
Yes,
and
yes.
you've been chief engineer on commercial ships. And my background is my father was a merchant seaman, man and boy, left school at 14, sailed the seven seas, came ashore after sailing for 18 years on board merchant ships, and then became the trade union official for the NUS, the National Union of Seamen. So he looked after the seamen
Yeah.
when they
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
came ashore across the northeast coast. Anyway, that's sort of who we are. I just wanted to ask you about what you think would be going on board ship right now.
Right now, well, if I was on there, then we would probably be doing watches,
Okay.
simply because the ship is aground, and you want people down there just in case anything happens. You know, but that's just what I would be doing. What they're doing is I don't know at the moment. They've only just had internet communications re-established. Apparently, the internet went out. It's only since the weekend that they've had the internet, so they didn't know what we thought of them. So they've been a bit panicky, thinking that we were blaming those people on the ship for the blackout. Yeah, they've been a bit worried.
We'll get to some of the more interesting details that have been coming off the ship and some of the investigating results. But there are a 21-man crew currently stranded on the ship. One
Yeah,
week
I do
later,
believe 2 weeks. Well, I think they won't be having surely for starters until they get back alongside.
right?
What they'll be doing is probably busy doing maintenance, catching up on the maintenance work for the engine room. I'm not quite sure what they'll be doing on deck, but yeah, they definitely won't be able to go ashore, and probably will be banned from holding interviews with news people, because I'm pretty certain that the news people will want to know what's going on board. But their policy will be to keep quiet.
What does back alongside mean?
Oh, yeah, back alongside just means when they bring the ship back alongside the quay, when they pull it up, when they moor up again.
Is that to unload all the cargo?
Yeah, they'll probably go to dry dock just to check. Sometimes they just check the spaces. You can just go in and check on the inside to see if there's any damage. But from what I've seen, I don't think the ship has been hobbled at all. I think it's just it's probably got a dent in it, which will probably get done at the next dry dock.
That was quite a clatter when it hit the bridge.
Yeah, that was the top of the boat. As the boat flares out, it was that top part that caught the bridge. It didn't actually hit the legs. The bow of the ship actually took a glancing blow. You can actually see that there's virtually no damage to the very base of the bridge, and so it was just the top part that just nudged the bridge in the wrong direction, just the tiniest little pulse, and that was it. It's gone.
Wow. I understand that out of the crew, there was only one slightly injured and someone needed some stitches.
Yeah, needed some stitches. Yeah, so the deck officers would have sorted that one out.
Any idea what was on board? Any idea what the cargo was?
No, it could have been absolutely anything. What they typically do is they keep all the hazardous cargo right up the front end, up at the bow. Yeah, that's one of the things about my video. People don't know what a bow's called. The sharp end of a ship is a bow.
If the poisonous stuff, or if the unsavory stuff was at the front, that could have caused all kinds of untold mayhem.
Yeah, there would have been plenty of other containers on top of the hazardous cargo. Would have been obviously stacked at the bottom. And as you go higher up the stack, they'll have lighter and lighter containers. Obviously, the empty ones will be on top, just to keep the weight down. You don't want weight high up on a boat.
No. You mentioned watches right at the very beginning. Is that like shift work? What is a watch?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A watch is normally you do 4 hours on, and then you get 8 hours off, and then you do another 4 hours on, and then the remainder of the day is off. Another 8 hours off.
Wow. They reckon it was on a 27-day journey to Sri Lanka. Would the
Yes.
crew have been doing that 4 on, 8 off, 4 on, 8 off all the way for the 27 days?
Not the engineers. I think the engineers would have been on what they call day work. It would have been an unmanned machinery space, so they would have been doing. There quite possibly have been three of them on. Like we do in a British Merchant Navy. You'd have one day where you're duty engineer, and then the other 2 days is you just do ordinary maintenance work. And when you finished at 5 o'clock, you go to your cabin. There'll be an alarm panel in your cabin, or you might have a pager. Some of the have pagers nowadays. So yeah, they would just do normal 8 till 5, finish work at 5 o'clock, and then go for dinner, and then go to bed. If they get an alarm at night, they would have to trundle off back down to the engine room and fix it.
Wow, unusual life at sea. They reckon that within the sort of maritime industry, there's 315,000 Indians as employed in the global maritime industry, and that's only 20% of the total. What's it like at sea? Is it multicultural, multi-faith?
Well, normally, if it's the boats that I were on, originally it was P&O containers, and we got taken over by Maersk in the end, and that's when it became more multicultural. We had Filipino crew, and some of the Filipino crew are really, really good. You'll be surprised. I've got a lot of time for the Filipino crew.
Almost 2 million in the global maritime industry as
yes.
crew. Filipino #1, Indian #2.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of Filipino. Most of them are actually officers, but they can't get officers' jobs, so they're on board as a motorman or a mechanic, or even in some cases an oiler and a wiper.
Wow. How will the crew be keeping in good health? How will they just be occupying themselves, or actually working, or how will they keep themselves in good health?
Well, they've got at least 28 days worth of food on board, so they ain't going to go hungry. And of course, they'll have enough water. You do actually make your own water on board ship. You just take seawater, and normally these days you poke it through a very fine membrane, and you get fresh water out the other end. It's called a reverse osmosis. And the other one is using waste heat to boil the water and then condense the steam that comes off the boiled water in what they call a freshwater generator.
Wow, you have to have
so they'll have enough food on board, and they'll have enough water. Being so close to port, if they do run out, they can just get another boat out with food and water on board if they need it. But otherwise, they'll have TVs like most people do at home. They'll have a TV. They'll have a rec room that they can all gather in, mess rooms that they can eat together, and they'll have a gym as well. They'll all have internet on board, so they'll be able to keep in contact with their families.
Wow. So you've said what they have, but what will conditions actually be like for the crew?
Well, most of them will have their own cabins. Most of them have their own toilets as well. So they have your cabin with your ensuite toilet. And most of them will have a double bed, probably a single bed on for the lower ranks and the crew. But the officers will probably have a double bed and quite a comfy cabin, really. You'll have a comfy chair to sit in, and your bed, and some of the senior officers will have probably a desk with a computer on.
The puzzling thing is reports are saying that 2 minutes of data is missing from the data recorder. Firstly, what exactly is a data recorder? Do you know?
Well, okay, it won't be like the black box on an aeroplane. This thing will just be recording the voices on the bridge and the communications, the telephone calls that they would have made. They will have a separate recorder for the movement, and probably a separate movement book for the rudder, for the steering position. It won't be like the black box where it contains every single thing. And of course, when the power went out, there was no data to record.
Of course. Of course. When will the crew be allowed off ship?
Well, that's another thing. They may not have all the paperwork to allow them to go ashore. It's a bit like being a tourist. When you go to America, you will need a tourist visa, and if you're working in America, you'll need a working visa. And of course, to get ashore, you have to be escorted to the gate, and then some of the charities there, the Merchant Navy, will have like the Flying Angel Club or the Stella. The other one, I can't remember the name of it now, but they'll have like a Seamen's Club that will take them ashore, either directly to the mission or take them into the local shopping place, and you let them do their shopping, and then they tend to bring them back.
Isn't there a Seamen's Mission down south that's called Stella Maris? Do you know?
Yes, it's Stella Maris. Yeah, you got it. I couldn't remember the name of it. It's been a long time since I've visited a Seamen's Club, because stuck in the UK, we don't tend to have them so much.
Yeah. Is it a long process for the crew to either come off the ship, or just to get some normality into their life while all of this is going on?
Yeah. So I don't think they'll be allowed off until they've probably finished the investigations, and then they'll be sent home. Apparently, some of them are getting quite stressed by this. They're traumatized is the word I'm looking for. Traumatized by the experience.
Well, the Americans are businessmen, so Coast Guard is saying that moving the MV Dali is secondary to getting the port reopened and the shipping channel going again.
Yeah, as quite a lot of people have been saying that this is a big port for farming equipment, and they need to get the farming equipment out. So that would be quite a fair chunk of money coming into the country. So they'll need to get that opened up ASAP.
You mentioned that the crew would need visas and shore passes. What on earth is a shore pass?
It's normally a declaration by the shipping company that you're not going to do a runner. Basically, obviously in America, the shipping company has to vouch for you, and of course some shipping companies don't do that. But I would imagine that this is quite a big shipping company, so they will vouch for their staff. But yeah, it's just a pass to let you in and out the gate, saying that you work for this company and that they're going to vouch for you.
Have you ever been in a situation like this where you've been stuck on board a ship, it's been stuck in port, and you couldn't either get off the ship or get out of port?
No, I've never been in that situation.
So this is unusual.
Well, it's not unusual. We do hear of these stories of ships that do get impounded and stuff like this. They haven't paid their port fees, and they do get impounded. It's mainly some of the Russian boats, but they get the shipping companies haven't paid their port fees.
During my research for our little interview, Retro, they may repatriate some of the junior officers, but they're saying this investigation could take months.
Yeah, it's very, very, very strange that they have, two power outings, very close. It does happen. I know it happens. It's happened to me several times, but there's a lot going on here. There's not a lot of stuff that's coming out. I don't really know that much. All I've seen is a video of the engines flashing back up into life, and it suddenly taking a 14-degree turn.
I know in our last video you said this could be attributed to, it could be a myriad of reasons, but you said it could be attributed to the change in fuel. And
Could
literally
be, yeah.
24 hours of you saying that, the press were reporting it.
Yeah, it's quite possible that it was a fuel. That's just one of the things that that you tend to do if you are running on a different fuel in port. Before when you change over fuel to the normal fuel that you use deep sea, you would quite possibly have a mixing tower, and it does take a little time for that fuel to mix thoroughly in the mixing tower before it gets into the engine. So that's why they tend to do it early, so that it's got time to mix up before it's being burnt, so that you're out of the port limits before you're fully on the new fuel.
If they want to get the ship back into port, as you say, possibly to take the cargo off ship and reload it onto another, will they need this particular crew to get the ship back alongside?
No. The tugs will help getting it back alongside, but anybody can operate the winches if they're experienced enough. They just lower the rope down, and the shore crew will pick it up and put it on the bollard. It's you don't need a skilled crew, put it that way.
So do you think if the process of investigation is going to be a lengthy one, say 6 months to a year, who knows how long it's going to take, but do you think they'll send the crew home and then just stick another crew on board to get it back into port?
Yeah, they may do that. You could probably get away with just tugs. Actually, probably 3 or 4 tugs will pull it back alongside. So you probably just get away with a skeleton crew.
Wow, that's amazing. I know the exec director of, we were talking about the Stella Maris and the Seaman's Mission, but it's something called the Baltimore International Sea Forest Center, I think. Now, they work to protect the rights of mariners, sea mariners. And the exec director has said, look, we've put a care package in place. We've given the crew hotspots so they can access the internet and contact home. So they have had a care package including Wi-Fi hotspots.
Yep. Hopefully they can contact their loved ones back home. That's one of the big things being away at sea. It's the limited contact you can get with your family. Of course, now with the internet that we have nowadays, you're virtually in contact all the time. So but being without the internet will be a bit of a struggle for some of them, I would imagine.
We've seen on your channel, Retro on his bikes, if this is the first time that you've interacted with young Retro. We've seen on many of your videos, when you're posting them at sea, you say, oh, I'm not going to get Wi-Fi for a couple of days.
Well, my Wi-Fi, I don't use the ship's Wi-Fi for posting videos, simply because it's damn slow for a start. But no, I normally wait until I get within phone range, and I use my own, my telephone in the window, and I use that as a hotspot. But we do get Wi-Fi on board ship, but it's just really for emails or send instant messenger kind of stuff. A small amount of data. Not like a big data file that goes with that YouTube video.
No, as you said a little earlier, the crew may be a little rattled because they don't know how the wider world is perceiving this event of theirs.
Yes, yeah. They are. I've heard stories that they're frightened of being blamed for this accident when it is just a series of unfortunate events, and of course they've obviously got power now because there hasn't been any reported blackouts since. So whatever it was, they've fixed.
Wow. Well, you could have told the world exactly what was going on. The conspiracy theorists had it wrong. It wasn't aliens. But
yeah, they've absolutely gone mad over it. On the video that I put out, the comments have been just ridiculous amounts of. I mean, I love a good conspiracy, but it's not it's got to have something, some meat to the conspiracy for me to believe it.
Yeah.
You know, but no, this one is definitely not. I mean, there's been this other crash in Oklahoma, and that was just coincidental that it happened within a few days of this Baltimore crash. Just, and of course, but they're all going mad, saying it's the Russians, or it's something else, or whatever. You know, just going mad.
Well, there is an old saying, it happens in threes. So we'll wait for the next one.
Well, I will concede to it being an attack if there's a third one within the next week.
Okay.
But I just think it's a complete and utter fluke. You know, one of these things just happened. You know,
fingers crossed it doesn't. Now we've sort of talked about the welfare of the crew and what they have at their disposal, but what is tedium and boredom the worst thing that can happen to someone when they're not working?
Or they'll be working. All right. I mean, the ship isn't. The ship isn't done for. This ship will continue, and they will have a planned maintenance system in place that they'll probably be busy working through. Given the downtime, their main engine won't be going, so they'll probably be sat there doing main engine work.
And is that the only work that they will do? Or will they do the prescribed work they were going to do for the 27 days of journey to Sri Lanka?
Yeah, well, they might be chipping and painting on deck. They, keep the rust away. There could be, things down the engine room, welding. Say this is only a 10-year-old ship, so there's probably still, things to modify to make brackets and things like this. So they'll be kept busy on board.
You said you haven't really been confined to ship in your whole career, and you've been a seaman for what, 40 years, give or take?
Yeah. We've been. Shore leave is limited because you've got to work. You're not there on holiday, so you do have to work. And I've been in port for 10 days while we were changing cylinders. I've got ashore once in a 10-day period. I've been to dry docks where I've been there for 2 or 3 weeks and just get one day off.
Hard work. I mean, how stressful will it be for this crew to be confined to ship for possibly months?
That's what we do. We go, you do spend weeks on board a ship going from A to B. Like I say, 27 days that they would have left port and they wouldn't have seen land mostly until they got to Sri Lanka. Going across the Indian Ocean as it is. It was quite a way.
Well, that's as much as we know for the moment. Thank you again for the insight, Retro. If you want to check out Retro's site, it is Retro on his bikes, and he's a long-time friend of the Theatre of the Mind. Again, Retro, thank you for your insight.
Thank you for having me.